I am celestial rank mentally, but not in game. Kai is preventing me from reaching my peak.
I've heard this very often. Like, very often. Yeah, man, I'm on Violet. And then I'm like, how is it even possible that you're saying that? Like, Leo is right there. He's literally right there. Yeah, man, Violet's a mid tier. Leo's just that much better than everyone else. Like, bro, what? Like, all right, anyway. Like, it's just really interesting whenever I hear that. I'm like, what do you mean you're on Byleth, bro? Like,
My character sucks, or I don't have a 2000 hertz monitor, or I don't have time to grind. You know, there's always excuses that people have. Instead of like losing and being like, all right, how do I shape up and fix all these problems that I have? It's always just, these are the things that are making me not win.
you know what also gets me about this is that a lot of times it's a lot of things that relate to themselves. For people that like talk and they're like, yeah, man, I really want to be the best. Like, I want to be oh so good. Like, I just want to push myself and like be the best that I can be. Like, that mentality is just counteractive, like completely counteractive to what like you're doing. Like, you're like saying one thing and then you're doing something completely different. So there's a lot of times where I'm talking to people and they're like, yeah, like this situation is just so like there's just nothing I can do here. And I'm like, don't you don't say that, because I'll like suggest something, right? And they're like, that doesn't work. And I'm like, what? And they say it only works if. And I'm like, so it does work. It does work. Like it works. You're just like, yeah, man, it works, but the timing's too hard. So you're not good enough, right? Like, it's that simple. Like, you're not good enough to time it correctly, right? It's always like, yeah, it works, but, or like, yeah, it only works if. And my least favorite is, what if they don't do it? Whenever someone says that to me, I just go, okay, like, if they don't do it, then you were wrong. You were incorrect. Like, you thought something was gonna happen, and it didn't happen. That's it. Your read was wrong. It's like people are like, yeah, man. Like okay, so I coach some people in the region, right? And I'm sure they wouldn't care about me like saying this, but there's this kid, Mocha, right? They play Fox. And they were struggling with Snake for a very long time, right? And he was like, you know what? Let's not even use Snake specifically. We'll use a situation. He would keep saying, I play players that have like up Bs out of shield. So like think Little Mac up B out of shield. Frame 1 through 3 is invincible. It's active on frame 3. Boom. Like a really good up B out of shield. Belmont, right? I'm just thinking of characters in the region. Belmont. I don't remember like all the specifics of it, but it's a very fast like up B out of shield. And it was like, I'll play these people, and every single time I jump, they just preemptively up B. And I said, okay, well, if it's every single time, then how come you just don't jump in neutral air dodge and punish it? And he goes, well, what if they don't do it? I said, then it's not every single time. Like, what? Like, I don't understand. Like, how can you say one thing? Like, oh, they do it every single time. And then I'm like, okay, then do this. Because if they're doing it every single time, it wins. Like, you beat this option every single time. This option always beats this option if they do it. What if they don't do it? Then you were wrong. Then it's not every single time. Then maybe there's another reason that they're doing it when they're doing it. Try to figure that out. Like work through it. Don't just, what if they don't do it? It bothers me so much when people are just, yeah, man, what if they don't do it?
You know, part of what makes fighting games hard is you have no one else to blame but yourself. I've got great news. In fighting games, you can blame everybody else but yourself still. You know, instead of blaming your bot lane for feeding, because it's always the bot lane, you could just be like, oh, well, my character is so juvenile and so weak in strength that there's nothing I can do.
Here's an example, by the way, of someone who just makes literally no sense to me, like as a player. Really respect their work ethic and like their mentality about like 99% of things in game, and it's Peanut. I hate that Peanut plays Little Mac. I say it to him all the time. I said, Peanut, you don't understand how good you are, and it's making me mad. Like, you could be top, like actually like easily a top 50 player in the world, like easily, like no question. If you picked a character and had the same maybe not even the same, like a slightly lower connection to that character that you have with Little Mac, but was a very good character, and you had the same work ethic, which you probably wouldn't because you don't enjoy the character as much, but like even if it's slightly lower, the character itself will make up for your work ethic, like that small gap in work ethic, right? You would be ridiculous. I'm watching them play in these matchups that look like they should be unwinnable, and he's just consistently winning them. And I'm just like, how? Like, I remember when he used to lose to Donkey Kong, he would lose in bracket, find a Donkey Kong to play, and just play them for hours and just try to figure things out and ask questions and go, okay, well, I can do this, right? Like as long as, here's something that I would say, as long as you have one option, generally that means you have more than one option. I know it sounds dumb, but like once a 50-50 becomes a 50-50, then it just opens up other avenues. I always say Min Min has one safe landing option, and it's like neutral air that's really spaced, right? But because of that, now I have air dodge, because if they shield, like, you know, if they go up to hit me, then I have air dodge. So boom, suddenly I have down air, because down air is a timing mix up to parries, and it's also 2 hits, so you have to know that you have to parry twice. And then I have down air, which is a stall and fall. Now I have forward air, because you might shield a little bit longer, and then I can forward air and jump and then like go through my, and it's like all of that started because I had literally one option, and that one option has very specific counterplay, and you build upon like, okay, well, how are they going to do their counterplay, and do I have counterplay to their counterplay? And Peanut does that very often with Little Mac, where it's like, all right, at least I have one option, and now that I have one option, I can start figuring some things out. That's how he recovers. Yeah, he figured out a few things. I'm like, sometimes I'm on Min Min and I'm like, I don't know how he's gonna recover. I'm trying to edge guard him from the middle of the stage. I see him recover against snakes. I see him like I see him recover against Ridley. My brain is like, how? They have 17 jumps. Like we're hitting you from full stage, like no commitment, and you're just, all right, I figured it out. Like, dude. So I will always commend like Peanut for his ability to, and that's why Peanut's so good, because bro, like I played him recently, and he didn't win any games with Little Mac, right? And afterward, he just goes, yeah, man, that's on me. I need to figure it out more. What? How can you say that? Min Min Little Mac looks awful. It feels awful. When I'm playing it, I feel bad. Like, I legitimately feel bad. Like, I don't want to play it. I'm like, this is, like, it's not, it's not enjoyable. It's very boring. Peanut might figure something out, and that's what makes him good. Like, if you listen to Tweak, if you listen to Light, if you listen to, like, all these, like, very good players, they rarely, like, blame anything other than themselves. Especially if they found a character that they believe in. Which I don't know why Peanuts is Little Mac, but whatever, man. Like, he like 90% of the time believes in Mac. Part of this might be this person just ain't meant to play Kai. Like, I know there's someone in our region, Maru, who played a bunch of characters, right? They played Ike, they played Sephiroth, they played Sora, they played Sheik, they played a bunch of characters, right? They started playing Cloud one day, and I was talking to him, and I was like, you know, anytime you lose on Cloud, you never blame Cloud. But when you're on every other character, you blame some part of them. And that's how I know you're meant to play Cloud. Like, you never blame Cloud. Like, you never, ever, ever blame Cloud. You're always like, that's me, that's me, that's me. That's usually a telltale sign for you, like, that's your character. Like, that this is what you're supposed to play. I can play Min Min. I don't care if I'm playing Min Min's worst matchups. I'm like, I mean, it's awful, but it's kinda doable. Cloud has flaws. Like, come on, man. That's like you blame Wolf. You don't blame Wolf, right? Like, you'll blame Falco. You're like, dude, Falco sucks. But like Wolf, you're like, Wolf is insane. Like, that's just how you feel. Obviously, they're both good characters, right? And I think even Steve has some. but they're very much matchup based and against very specific characters.
Either you need to solve this solution with this character or pick another character if this is what you
agree.
And at some point it does go from being your character is not as good as some other character to this is your fault. You made these mistakes. These are all the things you did wrong. I really think it's funny because all these people are laughing at it and I'm like, so many of you are this person.
Yep.
So many of you think this way. I don't even want to hear it.
When I was like, 18 or whatever, man, that's so long ago, 16, 17, like going to tournaments, and I played Lucas in Brawl. At first, I was the person I was like, nah, man, Lucas is crazy. Lucas is broke. I can make this I can make this work. Like, Lucas is so good. And I would be playing people, and I would be like, these people suck, but I'm losing. I don't understand what's happening. How is it possible that I'm losing when these people are trash? And then you know what it was? I was like, I would get grabbed one time, and they would start doing grab release stuff to me, and I was like, I wouldn't be losing to you if I wasn't playing this character. That's my thoughts. And I was like, you know what? Lucas sucks. And I kept playing Lucas. And every time I would lose, I would just be like, all right, well, it's all good. Because if I weren't playing Lucas, I would be cooking these people. Not even realizing, like, my flaws as a player or anything like that. I just kept going. If I weren't on Lucas, like, I'd be winning. Like, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to. But this character isn't as good as the others, so I just lose. And it's like, dude, that makes, like, yes, that applies when you get to like maybe the highest of top levels. This was me at locals, man. I couldn't even win low. I'm like getting like 9th at a local. Like, dude, like Lucas trash, man. Like, it took me 6 years to win my first Brawl tournament. 6 years. And I don't even think it was because like I believed in Lucas. I just started believing in myself. Logic started saying things to me like, he like started helping me get better, and he was like, dude, like, it's very obvious, like, you know what's gonna happen, but like, if it seems like you have like confidence issues in game, and like you won't go for things, or sometimes like you think something's gonna happen and you like commit a little bit too hard, so it feels like you're like the way you think about the game is like slightly off. And he's like, if you're right, like, you're right. And I was like, but what if I'm wrong? And he just said, well, just don't be wrong. And I was like, true. So for a long time, that was how I played. Like, I had no care in the world about like any risk reward or anything. Like, I just thought to myself, all right, well, I'm just not gonna be wrong. And then eventually I like won a tournament. But I didn't understand the cons of that mindset until I started getting punished harder for being wrong. Because at that point, we were transitioning to like Smash 4, right? And that game, they did a lot more damage and it was a lot more punishing. And if you were wrong, especially if they had rage, like if you were wrong against Zero Suit and she like tapped you, you got comboed and laddered and you died. And this was like pre-patch, like very early Zero Suit. So sometimes I would be wrong and I would just die. And I was like, I like, my mind would be like, well, hold on, like I only have 2 stocks. What do you mean just don't be wrong? What, that ain't gonna work, because like the risk of this is not worth the reward I'm getting. And then I started learning, oh, risk reward is a thing. Mind you, that's like 7-8 years into me playing. Like, sometimes you think you know it all, and then someone tells you something and you're like, I never thought about that, or I never thought of it this way. Or you hear someone like speak about the game, or you listen to someone and you're, wait, what? They think this way? Like, that's a possibility for people to like think this way? I don't know. You're like always evolving as a person.